And then our second sentence is stating our claim. So our claim, because some of you guys might get a little confused by that word claim. All our claim is, it's just a fancy word. All our claim is a big opinion that we have, meaning something we think about the characters, or maybe we think about it happening to the other characters. So some of our claims have been that people are mean to Maya. Another one of our claims was that Chloe is unkind. Another one of our claims was that Chloe changed from the beginning of the book to the end of the book. She changed, right? In the beginning of the book, she was mean. She wasn't nice. There's no other way to put it. But by the end of the book, she became to realize more about herself and realized how unkind she was. And she started to change her attitude a lot. So these are claims. Claims are just big opinions that we have about the characters in our head, okay? So that was always our second sentence. But we always had to back it up. What do I mean? Who thinks they know what I mean when I say back it up? Like you have to support your claim by backing it up. What do I mean by that? Who has a guess? What do I mean by that? If we just said Chloe is unkind and ended it there, I don't know if I would necessarily believe it though, because I'd be like, well, where's your evidence, right? So that's what our next two sentences are. We always have to have evidence. Evidence is just something or something someone does or something says in the story that we pull out, put it in our writing to be like, okay, yeah, Chloe was mean. She was super mean. My evidence is that Maya asked Chloe to play and Chloe said no. And also another piece of evidence was that Maya smiled at Chloe, but Chloe didn't smile back. So those were two pieces of evidence, right? So we always start with the story, the claim, the two pieces of evidence, and then we end it by usually saying, all this evidence shows that, and then you restate your claim. So last week, what you were supposed to do, last week, let me share my writing. Okay. So we're going to do it together. I kind of want to see what you guys vote. Okay, so last week, what you were supposed to do is we learned about quotes. Who remembers what a quote is? Does anyone remember what a quote is? Does anybody remember what a quote is? Susan, what is a quote, sweetie?
A quote is like a floating comma that's kind of like curved.
Okay, so you're thinking about the quotation marks, right?
Oh,
You're
yeah.
thinking about no. So you're going along the right way. You're thinking about these, right? Yeah. So those are quotation marks. You're really close, Susan. So what is the actual quote? So look at my quote. What is a quote? Think about it. What is a quote? What is a quote? Kwaku.
What the character says.
Yes. So a quote is what the character says. So think about Winn-Dixie. Opal talks all the time. The preacher talks. In the last one, Gloria Dupp talks. The quotes are just what they say. They're just what people say. Those our quotes are. So the way that we find quotes are usually by either quotation marks like we have here. But in this book, they're a little trickier to find, okay? In this book, Each Kindness, the way we find the quotes is by looking for the words that are kind of slanted. They kind of look fancy. So look here. I have a new name for her, Kendra whispered. So we know this is a quote. I have a new name for her. One, because the words are a little bit slanted. They're a little bit curved. But also it says Kendra whispered. So anytime there's something that says blah, blah, blah said, blah, blah, blah yelled, blah, 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 whispered. Usually that means that's a quote, okay? I have a new name for her, Kendra whispered. Never knew. Everything she has comes
Are
from
we writing
secondhand
anything
source.
yet?
Huh?
Are we writing anything yet?
No, I just need you to listen. So, what you guys had to do last week, what your assignment was, is we started writing out our claim again, our paragraph. Our book is called Each Kindness. My claim is that people are mean to Maya. And for our two evidences, our two pieces of evidence, we said we needed quotes. So our first quote was, for example, Chloe said she's not my friend. That was what we did together. So what your guys' job was to find another quote in the story showing, so another quote or something somebody said showing how people were mean to Maya. Does anybody want to share what other quote they found that they put in their paragraph? Does anybody want to share what other quote they found? Diana.
That Chloe was mean to Maya, that she was laughing about her clothes. Wow.
Okay, so is there somewhere in the book where Chloe said something about her clothes? Because remember, we have to use a quote. A quote are the exact words that somebody said. Does anybody else have a quote that they found showing how people are mean to Chloe? All right, well, let's look here.
People weren't mean to Chloe.
Huh?
People
Or
weren't mean to
people-
Chloe.
I mean, people mean to Maya. Anybody have a quote? All right, well, let's look for one real quick. Look at this. Here's a quote right here. I have a new name for her, Kendra whispered. Never knew. That's mean, isn't it? So I'm going to take this quote and I am going to split it and put it on my paper. So let's see. So I suggest if you do not have another quote that you write down what I'm about to write down, okay? All right, so my second quote is right here. Also, so I'm going to put also Kendra said, comma, quotation mark. What did she say? She said, I have a new name for her. I'm going to put period, and then I'm going to keep going. Never knew. End quote, and then a period at the end. So if you do not have, listen, if you did not get another quote, your assignment Friday was to find another quote and finish this paragraph. If you didn't do that, I suggest you write down my second quote that I found.
I know, but I'm trying to find it in my book.
Okay, well, look. All right, and then I'm going to end it. Remember, we always end it by restating our claim. So I'm going to say all this evidence, because there's my two pieces of evidence, supports, because that's what it's doing. It's supports my idea. What's my idea? My idea are that people are mean to Maya. So I'm going to say just that. My idea that people are mean to Maya. All right, so if you did not on Friday finish your paragraph, I suggest you write this down right now. So write this down. Finish writing it. If you did not finish your paragraph on Friday, you need to write down my paragraph if you didn't make your own.
What about if you made your own?
Then that's fine. Then you don't have to write anything down. I'm gonna give you guys about 1 more minute to write this down. So that means make sure if on Friday you did find another quote, that's awesome. Make sure that your last sentence of your paragraph though restates your claim. So you look at the other sentences we used from last week. Some of the other sentences we used to end our paragraph is all of these examples showed how Chloe is not a kind person. This one we ended it by, these are examples how people are mean to Maya. Make sure that on Friday, if you did find another quote and write it down, that you also ended your paragraph with a sentence that says something about this evidence shows how people were mean to Maya, or all this shows that people were mean to Maya. All right, and then I want you to send me a message that says done when you're done with your paragraph, whether you finished it last Friday or you're writing it now. Send me a chat that says done so I know that you are ready to move on to go over what we're going to learn about today. Because you're going to need either your paragraph from Friday or this paragraph that you're copying now. You're going to need this. So you need to have it somewhere, okay? You're going to need it. Because we're going to be editing this paragraph. Editing means just either adding things to it to make it sound better, changing it up a little bit. We're going to be editing this paragraph, okay? So you either need to have my paragraph or your paragraph that you did on Friday, okay? And all of ours should have the same as the black because we wrote that part together. The only thing that might be different is the blue part, depending on if you did your homework on Friday or not. All right, so send me a chat that says done when you either have your paragraph finished. So that means total you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sentences. You should have 5 sentences. Send me a chat that says done. And I will put this paragraph on our Canvas page. Why can't Miss Kalina talk? I had about 1 more minute and then I'm going to move on.
Can you keep it on there for me because I'm still writing?
Yes. All right, we got to move on. If you need this paragraph, go ahead and look on our Canvas page, okay? I just put it up there because we got to keep it. Makes our writing sound more put together, more just nice, and kind of like we are writing into 3rd grade, right? Because the for example and also, that's kind of like our 2nd grade writing, okay? We're trying to move up in our writing skills to be 3rd grade writers, okay? So we could do that by doing transitional phrases. Also, writers explain why your evidence matters. Explains. So some phrases to do that is, this is important. This means, in other words, this matters because, this shows how, the character could have, but instead. So how I would say that, for example, listen, I want you guys to listen on how to use these to explain why your evidence matters. So let's say our piece of evidence is that Chloe said she's not my friend. So if I use the transitional phrase like this, one part of the story shows this, one part of the story that shows this is when Chloe said she's not my friend. Right after that sentence. So let me show you right here. Right after this sentence, so that sentence ends here. Right after that sentence, she says, Chloe's not my friend. Instead of going in to my second piece of evidence, my second quote, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a sentence right here. And that sentence has to explain why my evidence, which is what Chloe said, matters. So I could say, this shows how Chloe was being mean to Maya. This matters because it's plain evident, it's clear evidence that no one wants to be Maya's friend. This means that Chloe does not think of Maya as her friend. The character could have ignored Andrew, but instead she was mean to Maya. So what we're doing here is not only are we changing our phrases, for example, and also by using this first box, but then we're also adding another sentence after our quote to explain why that evidence matters, okay? So I'm going to share an example. All right, I'm going to share an example. This is actually a piece that Miss Vaccarenu wrote. And this was her first draft, okay? Her first draft. So we're going to read it. I know it's a little hard to see because of the glare as always. And then we're going to add some of these transitional phrases to make it sound even better. All right, so I'm going to read this. You guys listen and think about, I'm going to actually, what I'm going to do, let's see. I'm going to keep those phrases up. Let's see if I could keep, oh, that didn't work very well. Let's see. Let's try that. Okay, I'm going to keep these phrases up. And let's see if we could think of parts where we can add some of these phrases. Okay, so let's listen. Each Kindness by Jacqueline Woodson. People are unkind to Maya. Okay, so look there. Miss Vaccarenu, instead of making it 2 sentences, she just made it 1, which is okay. We can actually do that. So she stated her book and she put her claim. Her claim is that people are unkind to Maya. That's our claim too. For example, all right, here's our first piece of evidence. And it's a quote. You could tell it's a quote because we have these quotation marks. I moved my chair, myself, and my books a little farther away from her. Also, okay, here's her second piece of evidence. It says, I have a new name for her, Kendra whispered. Never knew. Everything she has come from a secondhand store. All right. there's our second quote. Well, one thing we know, and then that ends it. One thing we know Miss Vaccareno is already missing is she forgot to restate her claim. So we could do that by saying this evidence shows how people are mean to Maya. So look, I'm already editing it. But what we want to do is we want to add some of these transitional phrases that we learned about. So I am going to show you what that looks like, okay? All right, so in Each Kindness by Jacqueline Woodson, people are unkind to Maya. So in her first one, she just put for example. But how we can use those transitional phrases, like the ones in this first box here, she said, oh, look it, she added before, she crossed out for example, and now she's gonna say instead, one part in the story that shows this is when Chloe says, and then she kept the same thing. I moved my chair myself, books a little bit farther away from her. So all we did to Miss Vaccareno's piece is we crossed out for example, and we added in this phrase, one of these phrases. One part of the stories that shows this is when. All right, guys, we're almost done, okay? Then, oh, we did it again. We're gonna cross out also, and we're gonna add in this phrase instead. Oh, actually, first, this is what we're doing. I forgot, we have to write why this evidence matters. So look, she used the phrase, this is important. This is important because it shows how Chloe was mean right away when she met Maya. So what we did to Miss Vaccareno's writing is we added a transitional phrase here. We crossed out for example, and we used this instead. One part in the story that shows this is when Chloe says. Then after she said her quote, we went ahead and we showed why that evidence matters. So this is important because it shows how Chloe was mean right away when she met Maya. So we're just gonna stop there, okay? Because that's super important. So what you guys are gonna do, what we're gonna do today, all right? And what you guys are gonna do, and this is gonna be your work, and you just have, since we don't have content today, you can work on it during content time. What I want you to do is look at your paragraph, and I want you to grab a marker or a pencil, whatever you have, and I want you right now, do what I do. You're gonna cross out this for example, and I want you to bring an arrow down like this. And I want you to write, this is where you're gonna put your transitional phrase number 1. And you're gonna get it from this first box here. And then I want you to put a star right here after your first quote. And then I want you to draw another line right here. And then you're gonna put why this matters. So I'm gonna put it here so you know why this matters. And I'm gonna put box number 2, so you know that it's a sentence that's from box number 2. This is gonna be box number 1. So all you have to do, you're not rewriting this paragraph yet, we'll do that tomorrow. All you have to do for your homework is you're gonna find a transitional phrase from this box to finish your sentence, to rewrite this sentence. And then for your second arrow, you're gonna use a transitional phrase from this box, box number 2, to tell me why this piece of evidence matters, okay? That's what we're doing. I will put this picture on our Canvas site, okay? That is all you're doing. You're going to be writing 2 sentences for me today. That's easy peasy. And you can do that during content time since you don't have any new content today, okay?
Wait. So you're gonna write the sentence like for box 1. You're gonna write, for example.
So you're getting rid of for example. Because for example is like a 2nd grade phrase. We're trying to come up with a 3rd grade phrase. So you're going to pick out a phrase from box number 1 to replace the words for example. Does that make sense?
So do I write box number 1, for example, then on box 2, do I write?
So you are crossing out, for example. We are getting rid of this phrase. We're getting rid of it. And what you are going to do is when you look at these phrases,
I did claim instead of for example.
well, you already have a sentence that says my claim is. So your for example should be your quote. And then what you're going to do is for box number 1, instead of saying, for example, Chloe said she's not my friend, you're going to say, in the story, it says, she's not my friend. One part of the story shows that this is when Chloe said she's not my friend. The only thing you're doing differently is you're taking this, for example, crossing it out. You're coming down here, finding which phrase you like better instead of for example. And then for the 2nd sentence, you're going to pick out one of these phrases in box number 2 and write a sentence telling me why this evidence is important. Why is it important that we use the piece of evidence, she's not my friend?
So to replace, for example,